All right, we're on to the next one. This one is a bit of a myth in that your bone marrow degrades with age, definitely. So your long bones in the center become fatty. You know, the ends of the long bones also start to degrade after a certain age, but your spine and your hips tend to stay relatively pristine. So it's because your bone marrow doesn't degrade uniformly that the therapy of bone marrow is so successful. Because I can now, you know, when I'm a kid, all of my marrow is red, and if I get hurt, all of my marrow responds. If you're me, most of my marrow is fat, and only my hips and spine respond if I get hurt. But if I can take the marrow from my hips and spine, which it's not as good as when I was younger, but it's pretty close, and I can take it out, and now I can compensate for the parts of my body where I've lost marrow, and I can give a healing response that looks more like a younger person, but in an older person. And because marrow doesn't degrade uniformly, that's why this therapy works so well. And the place where you want to target, where you have the most pristine marrow left, is that inner bone surface in your hips, that endosteal surface. That's really what I wanted to describe on this slide. And part of that, you know, is that if you're 60 years old, you're still in the walking donor pool. Up to 60 years old, I can take marrow from someone, irradiate a patient, transplant it into that patient, and completely reconstitute that person's immune system. So that's a very challenging environment. So 60, even 70s, 80, you know, people will respond. This is some work we did. I think it's 30 patients where we ran a regression on counts versus age. You know, so that you can see that there is a correlation, but it's not a really strong correlation. You have really good marrow throughout your body into your later years. I mean, you can see this person was like 83 or 84, extremely low count. But they're all in the averages. You know, whatever we got, whatever age we had, we included them in the table. And that's really all I wanted to talk about on marrow. The marrow, you can still use marrow in older patients as long as you draw it from the right locations in the body. Any questions there, Nick?
I don't think so. I think if I can just reach out to the people who are alive on the webinar, I know there were a lot of questions earlier regarding patients' age and quality of marrow. I think Andy really answered your questions here. Anything else, please just go ahead and type it in. I also want to add that if we look at our patients that we're doing 3-phase bone scans on, the amount of activity that you're seeing even in your elderly patient, you can see a lot of activity in the ileum. So it stands to show that even in an elderly population, those cells are very active, high in quality and in quantity in an elderly population when we're drawing from the ileum.
And then if I would say, your elevator pitch, why marrow? It's your body's natural response to trauma. So when you transplant marrow, you exactly mimic and supplement what your body's naturally doing. It's better to copy Mother Nature than try and reinvent it.